All right. So first of all, in order to build a framework, we are currently working with IntelliJ, right? And in IntelliJ, um, remember the code has no association with IntelliJ, right? Because when we write the code, it creates it in our machine, right? We just create the folder and everything. IntelliJ just helps us write the code. It can organize our files and it can give us like a structure that we need. So initially, like if I want to create a project in IntelliJ, the first thing I will do, click new and now project, right? So that's what I will do to create this project. And when you join a company, you're not going to create a new one unless you're asked to do that. If they say you have to create the framework, then you can do it the way that I'm doing right now. But otherwise, you'll be clicking on new, and then you'll be checking out from existing repository. So hopefully after today's class, the next class, I will introduce you guys to Git, give you guys a bit more idea about how to pull and push from Git, and also merge conflict, how to remove merge conflict and things like that. And once we are pretty much done with this framework, so this will be your second framework. The first one that we've been writing automated tasks is just Selenium with Java and JUnit, right? So very simple. And this one will be Selenium with Cucumber and JUnit. And so we're basically going to have a resume that have BDD automation, and we're going to have regular Java Selenium. So let's say, suppose your most recent project will have 2 years of BDD experience, and prior to that, you were working with Java and Selenium for 3 years, and then another 2 years was manual testing. So total 7 years at a bare minimum experience. So if you have that type of experience, obviously you need to be very well versed about Cucumber and framework and how things works. It's always good to know how pretty much things that builds from scratch, right? So that's why we are going to do it instead of preparing things ahead of time. We're going to build it ourselves. So first thing first, Maven. Why do we even do Maven? Because remember, this is a BDD framework, and you may say, okay, wait a minute, we did the same thing on the last project. Maven is just a build management tool, so it will just help us to manage anything that we need, like dependency wise. So Maven can be used for any type of project, BDD, TDD, data-driven, hybrid-driven, keyword-driven framework, right? All of these frameworks, if you use Maven, it becomes more and more powerful. Is because you want to share your code with your coworkers, and they need to be able to contribute to it. So imagine you write some code, you write a framework, and nobody can contribute to it, and you're the only one who has to contribute. You will be exhausted at some point, and then you will discontinue updating the code. Therefore, your framework no longer in use, right? So that's why usability and maintainability is like the huge part of automated test, because you may say, okay, I'll create the automated test and it'll now run itself. That's not how it works, right? You create the automated test and you have to continue to maintain, because you wrote a test today, application was a different version. Tomorrow, a developer pushed their changes. Now the application is different. Your test no longer works. You have to update your test, right? In order to make your test the most current version and then working version, basically. So now imagine if you have to update your test every week, because every week there's some code being pushed. So if you work in Agile, every 2 weeks, the code is being pushed to the production and your queue environment and your staging environment. So all this code that are going in is making your test failures, and you have to update them. Imagine it takes such a long time to update because your automated framework is not using the right things, right? For example, Maven is not following OOP concept, is not following page object pattern. So if that's the case, it's gonna have maintainability suffer, right? So when you have a automated framework that has high maintainability cost, meaning your time, you have to spend too much time on maintaining, at some point the team is going to stop using it, because it's just you will need maybe like a couple of weeks separately aside from just development to maintain your current automated test. And even if you maintain your test will fail for unknown reason, it will be very, very hard for you to keep up with the development team. And that's why when you create automated tests, we don't automate 100%. And in theory, if you want to automate everything, yes, you can go as close as possible to 99%. But we shouldn't automate 99% because that will create more and more maintainability to your framework. And we want to automate. What are the test cases that we automate? We automate high critical business critical workflow. We automate things that needs to be tested repeatedly, and we automate anything that has let's say high numbers of test data or data that we need to, something that is not humanly possible. Like you cannot go and test 1,000 keywords if you need to, like for example Google, you're doing keyword search, it's going to be impossible almost. So similar to that, these are the test cases that we automate. And just keep in mind, automation is not a substitute for manual testing, because every time you write automated tests, you're doing manual testing first, right? To understand the behavior, understand the feature, and then you write efficient automated tests. So anybody ever ask you a question like, why, which one do you like? Do you like automation? Do you like manual? Or which one do you prefer? You're gonna say, look, I was a tester first. In the beginning, I did a lot of manual testing, and that has given me the opportunity to understand the importance of manual testing, because with manual testing, we understand the product and we understand the application. Therefore, we write efficient automated test. And not everything we want to automate, because it will add more and more time for our tests to be maintained, and therefore we will end up not using automation at some point when the maintainability gets too heavy. So in an interview, when you say like some wise things like this, you can already prepare these statements, right? And before they even ask you, or let's say they didn't even ask you this question and they ask you, okay, tell me about automation, what to automate, what not to automate. Then you can say, okay, before I want to say that, I would like to emphasize on this fact that the maintainability and reusability of automated tasks. And then you can say the whole paragraph, and then you can say, okay, now I want to address your question is this. It's just that, look, in an interview, you can drive pretty much you can drive yourself. Like you can actually tell the interviewer, like, this is what I want to highlight, right? We can highlight things that we know. So always prepare yourself, some of these pointers, some of the best practices that you know, and prepare paragraphs ahead of time of the interviews. So that way, if you feel like you don't have nothing to say, then you can just say, okay, look, I would like to highlight this. You know what? I want to say this. I want to say that. This is such an important topic. I would like to say this specific thing, right? So you can always bring up and you can kill some time, but at the same time, you're blowing their mind. You're not just killing time, but you're also giving them something so wise that they kind of get lost in it, and which is really, really good. And that's one of my tactics in an interview. All right. With that said, let's continue. And I hope nobody forgot what we were about to do. We click on Maven because this is a dependency manager, and that's about it. Okay, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't have like, any other, it allows us to run tests and we can organize tests and so on. But Maven is for dependency management. For this one, I'm going to say BDD, right? Automation framework. Now, today, whatever I'm going to build, you can actually use that in a work environment, but this will be initial framework, right? So you're going to say, look, I built something, we're going to enhance it. Like, never ever say this is your finished product when you just created something, right? Always say, well, yeah, this is something to get started with, and this is what I have right now, but we will enhance this. And then you can encourage your coworkers to also contribute, to make this framework even better. So now, when you create a framework for with Maven, the first thing you land in is pom.xml. We already know what that is. This is where we kind of put in all of our dependencies. And today we're going to be putting all the dependencies that we need. So Cucumber and Qux and all that. for our framework to use. The first thing first we are going to create is, instead of Java, we have so two of the folders that we're looking at right now, right? So we got source and we got test. Test is where we're going to write our feature file, and source is where we're going to write the definitions. For today's class, we're going to write the definition right in here so nobody gets confused. And then starting from the next class, we're going to start writing definition into our main instead of source folder, so that way we can isolate our test to have step definition that is completely in a different side. All right, so dependency. Who remembers where we get the dependencies from?
Maven
repository.
Maven repository, right? So okay, that's the first thing we're gonna go into. Maven repo. So moving forward, every class that we're gonna be doing, we're gonna like kind of have like some interaction, like pop quiz type, and I'm gonna ask you guys questions, and it's just to see that how much you guys remember, because some of the things are common, right? We did this before, and so it shouldn't be a big problem. All right, so then Maven repository, the next thing we do is search, right? The first thing first, maybe we need Selenium WebDriver. How many people know what Selenium WebDriver do?
Selenium WebDriver control the browser.
Yeah, so to control the browser.
So it is to pretty much tell the browser what to do, like
WebDriver based
the browser, but it's manipulating, right? Like we tell the browser do this, and then we can tell the browser bring me this, and the reason it becomes test, because you just simply tell somebody doesn't mean it becomes test, right? It returns information that we need, and then we compare with Java, right? So it has nothing to do with Selenium when it comes about comparison. When we do comparison, we're doing with JUnit, which is a very component of Java, one of the component for JUnit testing, but we can also simply use regular Java to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and take this. When you pick a specific version of Selenium WebDriver, just make sure that you're getting the stable 3.141, right? So that's the one that we're going with right now, because that seems like stable. Everything else is beta, right? So we can take a beta version, but the thing is that what if we get stuck? Then we're gonna end up spending maybe sometimes to fix that, and we don't want to. Right now, we don't want to do that, right? We want to continue on writing some automated tests. Okay, so also learn some shortcuts. So notice how like this could be like right here. Indentation is all messed up, and I can do Command Option L, and it will fix my code to be nice format, right? So just keep that in mind. For Windows, I think it's your Windows button and L.
Control Alt L.
Okay, yeah. And this is a good feature to have, because imagine you're pushing your code and your coworker is seeing it and it's all over the place. Like, for example, like this, so it should be aligned with this line right here. Imagine like dependency, you see how this is aligned and like this, and imagine like you see, it looks ugly, right? And you just do boom. But then it doesn't fix the extra spaces actually. So it only fixes the indentation. So this indentation was fixed and this one was fixed, which is good. You can also configure that to match what you need. For example, right here, you see 4 spaces. Indentation, is considered as, and 4 spaces considered as 1 indentation at this point. I can configure to make it 3, 2 if I need to. All right, so the next thing that we need is gonna be after that is going to be JUnit, and then let me see, what else do we need? And JUnit is right now we're using JUnit for assertion purposes, only assertion. JUnit can be used also. JUnit has its own use also, but we're going to be just using for assertion at this time. All right, that's that. So we got 2 dependencies. Then if we, okay, let's do testing one at a time, right? So, all right. I'm gonna make it a package. So step no, feature. Okay, so let's make a feature and we give it like first cucumber test. Click okay, boom. And now notice like when you choose that from the, when we just click on Java, right? And we just choose this one, it automatically created some structure, right? We got tag as an optional, we got new feature. So remember we talked about this feature, scenario, and everything, right? So a feature is, think about the file name, and after the feature, the first line that you write, anything that you write in here, it is not code. So you can write anything. So you can say it's a description, right? So I can say, as a Google user, I would like to search for keywords and get in order to get what I am looking for example, right? So this is just me writing an example. So this is your feature, right? And then we got scenario. Now, if one feature can have more than one scenario, right? So it could be like, now we got scenario, right? So we got 3 scenario and we'll probably write all 3. And then we can have something like background. So background is something, it's like a setup, right? Background is something is, it's basically going to run once before this block runs. Okay, so it will run once before this. So for example, you're running all, let's say you're running all the whole file. It will first, it will run the background, then it will run this, then it will run background, then it will run this, then it will run background again, and it will run this. So far so good. You guys understood what background
Yeah,
does?
that means every time it's ran background,
Okay.
then the scenario.
So then what steps can I put into background, and what step, so which step should I put in background, let's say, now that you understand what background does? In your test, let's say in your test, you log in, right?
Mhm.
But then will you be logging in for this and this and this, right? All 3 scenario, right? How you will continue without logging in. So, and then you got log out. So which ones is going to stay in background and which one is going to stay here? So remember this, right? Background runs once before each of the scenario, right?
Yeah. Right.
So that means anything that is common in between these 3,
This is background.
we can put it in background, because we don't want to write it again and again. We don't want to copy and paste, because we know that when we put it in background, it will run it before each of this. So anything that we need to run for all 3 before running the test, then we can put it in background. So we can call this as setup, for example, right? You can, that could be like going into the URL, that could be clicking on something before doing the next, right? So that could be setup. Now there is something else that Cucumber has, which is called scenario outline. All right, and immediately you notice is red, right? So scenario outline. And if somebody can tell me why this is red, then I will know that you know about Cucumber, how Cucumber works. So give you guys 2 seconds to think about it and tell me if you know why this is red.
You have to put keys and examples for this.
No. So, oh yeah, okay, wait, I'm sorry. So you said examples?
Basically, it needs a set of examples or a set of keys.
Exactly. So you definitely know about Cucumber. So if you like examples, think about this way, right? Many times during the interview, sometimes I remind, like sometimes I join the interview and I'm like reminding you what to say about scenario outline, because one of the highly asked questions about Cucumber is, what is scenario outline? What is the difference between scenario and scenario outline? And some people forget. So I do write down, oh, scenario outline needs a example table, and they think example, for example, instead of example table, they said, okay, for example, it needs a table. and they mess it up, right? So to just know that example is the keyword which is resembling a table, which is expecting a table. So we're going to be writing a table using pipe delimiter, right? So this is called pipe, okay? When you click on shift, when you hold shift and then you press the button under your delete, right under the delete button, right? So that is pipe delimiter. So here you're going to write your keyword, for example, let's say keyword, and then you have to provide a value, okay? So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. So the value could be like, let's say you're searching for iPhone, Mac, and then let's say Windows or something, right? So now when you search for these different keywords, what scenario outline is doing is that it's running the test for one iteration per data, not this. This is just a name, okay? So what the test is going to do is going to say, okay, first run with keyword, keyword iPhone, right? And this is the header of the table. So it doesn't run with the header, okay? So it will run 3 times here, okay? 3 times the same test here. For example, given I am on Google when now you have to use the header, okay? So when I search for this header, okay, then I should see the same keyword on the search box, right? So we can use the same keyword in result. Okay, so pretty much like just sync this in, just understand what we just wrote here. We just wrote a feature without the definition, okay? Given I'm on Google, when I search for keyword this, I should see this keyword in the search results. And how many times this test will run? This test?
3.
3 times, because the first time it will run this whole line of like the whole block of code with iPhone. So it will take keyword. So the first iteration is going to say, I search for iPhone and I should see iPhone in the search result. The second iteration will run and say, I search for Mac and I should see Mac in my search result. And the fourth one is that it will run with Windows and I should see Windows in my search result. So they will say what it is, like, what can you do with scenario outline, and it is called parameterization. We are parameterizing our test. And this is one of the helpful tool that Cucumber has provided to have high numbers of test data, but we're using the same script to run them. This is not the only option we have as a tester. We can still use Java. For example, we can take the test data from an array and then run it without having to do scenario outline. But this is a pretty good way having visibility, because when it fails, we know exactly which one it failed. It will give us like, okay, it failed for Mac or it will fail for Windows. So similarly, a table can have a lot of columns, right? A table can have columns, a table can have rows, and the rows and columns you decide. So it could be like result, for example. Result, and then you can put like what you're expecting as a result, and this is another column. So just visualize a table. It has header, it has the row, and it has this column. So at this point you can have 4 columns if you need to, okay? And so the test will run with each row. So that means this column needs to have so each row needs to have enough information for the test, so that way it runs appropriately. Otherwise it will not mix match from different rows, okay? So it will only take a row and populate this information and then run the test, okay? So we'll definitely get to that point. We're writing a test for Google, and again, taggings. In Cucumber we can tag things. For example, if you tag on feature level, for example, at regression, if you tag it here, that means all of the scenario belonging to this feature. That means if you have 20 scenarios in this table, in this feature, it will run all of that if you call regression in your runner file, right? And we'll talk about that also.
All right, Jalbhai, if we want to put at regression, so should we need the test ng for this or not really?
So okay, this is a good, pointers that you bring in, because remember, TestNG and Cucumber, let's say they're competitor of each other, right? let's say
So
they're
we have no idea about test engine.
okay. So let's okay. Um, for the time being, right? For some of you guys that don't understand what TestNG is, think about what is the intention behind TestNG and Cucumber. So giving you guys a little bit of background, TestNG is there to help you run your tests and organize your tests very organize the test basically, and also create results, reports, basic built-in report within TestNG. And Cucumber does the same thing. Cucumber does even better. Now Cucumber has Cucumber HTML report. Cucumber can organize your test in this manner. So if you really think about it, you should not need TestNG when you're using Cucumber, because they're like kind of like competitors, like you having an iPhone and a Samsung in your hand at the same time. You only need one of a kind, right? Because you need, if you're making a phone call and that's what you need it for, you don't need both brands. Okay. So you choose ahead of time. So if you're choosing Cucumber, yes, you're not going to need TestNG here to run these tests. What this regression tagging, it could be anything, right? It could be like for example, you can even have your requirement, like for example, you're working on requirement, like for example, this is a test case that you're automating, test case TC-09, for example, right? This is your test case 09, and you want to identify with this tag, then yes, you can tag it this way. All of the tests will belong to TC09. So when you want to run it, you can only run all of these tests, and that's it. We may have 1,000 other tests in this repository, but you're only running the tests that are tagged with TC09. Now, let's say out of
All right.
these
Quick
3 or
question,
4,
like how we specify that if I only want to run only TC09, maybe I have 1,000 of other test cases, but I want to run only this. How can I do that?
You have to specify that on your runner file, and we'll go on to that. I think we're talking about advanced. Like the next thing we want to do is that, right? Because we create the test, and we will show you how to run it. So let's understand the reasoning behind the tagging, right? So now let's say you got TC09 is your custom tag, and now you realize some of these tests can be included in your regression test, right? So you realize this test is very important and it could be part of the regression. You got 700 other tests that is tagged already as a regression, right? So now you then say, okay, you know what? I'm going to tag this also as a regression. Now, if you had 700 before, this becomes 703, 1, 2, and 3 test cases. You just added it to your regression. So the regression tag may be something that your team is using in order to run the entire suite. And now the next time the regression test runs, it will include your test also. So when you join a team, you want to understand which tag that they're using for regression, which tag they are using for smoke. So for example, one of the tests you feel like it could be a smoke test, it will be a good candidate for a smoke test. So you can just say smoke. And now if your team is using smoke and pretty much running the test for a smoke test, then this test will be included. So you want to know which tag they're using. You want to know the tag that you should be tagging the test, and what is the standard procedure of tagging your test, right? So when you write your first test, just be like, just open up and say, look, writing my first test, I just want to know how we're running this test. What are the tags? Or you can just do some investigation, which is go into the previous test and see how they tagged it. And you can do it the same way, right? So go with the flow, go with the same norm. Think about this way: when you join a company and you're going in and writing some test, if you don't follow their norm, it's not good enough, right? It's not good enough. They will tell you, okay, you're missing this, you're missing that, you're missing the tag. You know what? The name is too long. You should be making a smaller name. They will say, you know what? The feature shouldn't describe something like this. The feature should say what it is that we're doing, what is the objective, and they will give you suggestions, and you have to follow what the company standard is, or somebody, maybe your test lead or your test manager, who is expecting you to follow that, right? But what we are today talking about is the standard, right? So for example, a feature, we're just describing the objective of the entire feature. So all this scenario belonging to this feature is just pretty much like, think about like an epic, right? Or this is a bigger story. And we're just describing with 3 lines saying what is the whole feature is doing. We're not breaking it down. Once you finish, this is not code, this is just description. And then when we write our scenario, this is where we go more deeper and say, okay, this feature has this many scenarios, and we want each scenario, we are going to be writing it down, and we'll automate. And we're going to be automating what is worth to automate. We're not going to automate things like it will create more load to ourselves. For example, some companies, they decide not to automate negative testing is because it becomes too picky, right? Automated tests should be, we should be able to catch bugs that are dealing with major part of the application. So for example, like in the ocean, right? Like imagine like you throwing a net. If it's small enough, you can pick it up and you can keep picking it up if it's small enough. Now, if the net is so big that you're not even able to pick it up anymore, you're using machines and all that stuff, and you can't even pick it up, then what is the use of having the net on the first place? Okay, so if you put the same analogy on the automation, we're creating a net for the future. Automation do not catch a bug right now today. Okay, a feature has been developed by your developer or development team. It will not find a bug today at this time. You'll see like automation team, if you're part of the automation team, then yes. But if you're not part of the automation team and you're doing manual testing, you'll see automation team almost comes back with no bugs in a team, like no bugs, 0 bugs all the time. And you may wonder like, oh, how come they don't find any bugs? What's going on? It's because automation doesn't find a bug initially, right? Automation is for the future. So when we write automated tasks, we want to find bug in the future when there is unexpected changes are happening. So we are creating, we're creating pretty much expectation, what we're expecting out of our features, and we keep that as a log. And then we're running it every day to hope that we're going to find any unexpected behavior or an issue that application causes because of recent changes, or maybe because of unexpected changes. And that's what we pretty much do, right? So so just keep that in mind. You have to kind of like understand automation doesn't replace manual testing. If anything, manual testing finds more bug, but automation allows you to, like, now you may think, okay, automation has a lot of downside then, right? No, automation allows you to release your product sooner than later, which has a huge amount of value. Automation allows you to be able to test as many features as you can, because now at least 50% of your tests are automated, so you don't have to rely on humans. You can still do your human testing, but then automation will do its own and find issues. And there are some tests that we cannot do as a human that automation can, right? But most importantly, being an agile and being able to release every 2 or 3 weeks, we need to be able to automated tasks will allow us to be a 2 weeks release, follow a 2 weeks release cycle. Otherwise, we cannot follow a 2 weeks release cycle. It will be a 4 weeks, because the first 2 weeks will be development, and then the next 2 weeks will be testing, and then we go for release. But now we can do that within the 2 weeks, right? So think about how much time and money the company is saving if they do automation. It's almost 50%, all right? And they don't have to hire so many QA guys. So automation has its own place. That's what I'm trying to say. And manual testing has its own place. Manual testing gets a lot of respect too. It may not seem like, but it's a lot of respect, because when you are a manual tester, trust me, you will be in the meeting vocal. You are the person who's going to be talking all the time. It's because you have the product knowledge, you are the SME, and you'll see just the automation guys are going to be mostly silent. They're just going to understand, and they will reach out to you later in order to continue to do their part of the task. And they'll say, hey, can you show me this? What is this supposed to do? And you are going to be the SME if you are the manual person. But yes, there are teams where you kind of do a hybrid role, manual automation, 20% maybe automation, 30% automation. And that's the roles that we look for, because we don't want pure manual testing. But also we don't want pure automated testing, because it'll be too heavy on you initially on your first job. All right, so just know the difference, know why such things are important. And now let's write our first feature. Now remember, POM, we only have JUnit and Selenium. We're not going to get TestNG because we don't need it. We will get Cucumber. Okay, so let's see what are some of the cucumbers that we need in order to get started, right? So let me go ahead and search real quick. So we got cucumber JVM. We also have JUnit for cucumber. There is cucumber core that we're gonna need it for sure. What else do we need? So I feel like even cucumber has TestNG. So if you decide to use TestNG and cucumber at the same time, but I would not recommend. And many interviewers out there, they will get thrown off if you say you use cucumber and TestNG at the same time. They'll say, "What? You don't need both," and you're gonna get exact same answer that I'm giving you. So even though this library allow you to use TestNG for cucumber, but you shouldn't use both at the same time. Now let's get cucumber first. And I'm going to probably get latest just to be, if we have any issues, we can always come back. Okay, so then that is my one. And notice how immediately this became red, which is fine. We will fix that. Okay, and then the next one, we're going to get cucumber core. And I may choose cucumber JUnit. We will have a separate JUnit, but we'll probably get the cucumber JUnit. Info cukes IO. Okay, so this is cucumber IO, and we need cucumber Java. We need that. And just know one thing is that even if you, let's say, get a library that you don't need, unused library, you're not really harming your framework or anything. You can always remove it if you're not using it. Okay. So cucumber Java, and then cucumber core is something that we need. No, this is the same one. Okay, fine. I'll remove one of them. We don't need both, but cucumber core we need it. And then the other one was Cukes. Okay, so I'm just adding these libraries in order to, and some of these libraries actually include the libraries that I'm thinking of. For example, Gherkin, we got tag, we got expression, database, all of these are included into this repository, right? Cucumber core. So we don't have to go and manually and go into and do one each of them separately that are included. So which is good. I believe we need the Cukes JVM Spring. No. Cukes. Okay, so we're gonna get Cukes later if we do end up needing it, but I think we should be fine. And the first thing first, we're gonna click on here is build, because right now it's red, and that means these libraries are not included in our external libraries yet. So once that is synced, and you see downloading dependencies, once that is done, then we can go ahead and do it. So imagine like how Maven, right? Maven, we just only mentioned this, and now Maven is automatically downloading these dependencies. If you were to share this framework with your coworkers, the only thing they have to do is build and click on this refresh in order to get the libraries, right? So it's easy compared to they would have to, if you didn't use Maven, then you wouldn't have this pom.xml. Therefore, you would still have the same structure if you want to, and then your coworkers would have to manually download each one of them. And now maybe they don't know which version you're using. Okay, so then there will be a mismatch of version, and that will create a lot of the issues of their setup. So it may take a day or two of setup, and they will probably call you all the time. And where Maven is simplifying everything, you're already laying out what you need. So when somebody gets this repository, they know exactly what they need to do and start automating the very next minute. All right, so now we got ourselves this. So let's write a simple scenario so verify. So first thing, scenario, like the first line, we always write the intention of the scenario, right? So verify a user can, right? Search. Okay, user can do a Google search, for example. So because we're going to just do today, we're going to just do Google to simplify our life at this point. So given user navigates to, or user goes to google.com, right? Google page, right? Home page or page, whatever, same thing. And notice how this getting highlighted. Then when is the action? So given is where you are, what you're doing. Okay, when is the action? When user searches. So I'm writing in third person in this case. I can also write in this manner. When I search this, given I go to Google page, blah, blah, when I search for this, then I can also do it this way. Let's just do it this way, right? Because that's, you'll be more comfortable instead of the third person. So given I go to, I go to Google page, you see this keyword, when I search for, and we can put the keyword however we want, and some keyword. And then I don't know what the keyword is. So this will be our parameter. And then I should see result for keyword. This, I don't even know what that keyword will be. So I'll just leave it on open just like this. Now, the first thing first, it will say, oh, create a step definition. Okay, so there is two ways for you to create the step definition. Number one is that you click on this bulb, or you can just run it. So if you're using Cucumber with IntelliJ, you can just simply click on run, and it will run that specific feature. So if I do the run, and you will see some things happening here, and then we go from there. So notice, like when I click on run, and it did give me some things that I may need, which is it's saying that your steps are undefined. Who here understand what undefined step definition here means? What do we need to do at this point?
You create a step definition file for all the Cucumber scenarios.
Steps, right? Yeah. So all these steps right here do not have a definition. So like I said, we can just copy this and paste it and build top of that. This is called dry run. And what dry run does is pretty much gives you the template of your step definition. So you can actually copy this and paste it into another folder and be able to automate. Okay. Or you can simply right click here and say, I'm going to create a step definition, and it'll say, where do you want it? And then you see the location, we're putting test Java, and we're saying my step. Okay, fine, we'll do that. And your step definition is within. And we named it this way, right? My step depths, for example. So given I go to Google page, now in here, as you can see, I go to Google page. This is a convention. If you're a Java developer, this is the way they want it. If you are a Ruby developer, this is the way that they want it, right? So you see how it's two different formats it's giving me, right? This or that. So depending on your team, what they follow, you choose this, right? So this way, the way that this is called camel casing, and this is basically underscore, putting underscore for each different word within your variable. So with this way, if you follow this way, then you may want to copy it from here, or if you follow this way, then you want to copy it from there. But as far as I know, if you're writing in Java, this is the convention, this is the way that they want to follow. And this is if you're doing Ruby, or if you're doing Python, then this is the way. This is for Java and C#. Okay, so now we have to create our step definition in a way that it works. Notice, like when I wrote web element web driver, it automatically pulled, it automatically showing us the definition. That means we know that our Selenium is working fine. So I'm going to say driver is equal to new Chrome driver, let's say, right there. And so that's one. So we're just creating a driver here. We'll separate it out. We're going to follow page update pattern later. For now, we just want things to make sense the way we did it in our previous project, so nobody gets confused. And then we want to say driver right here. But remember, driver needs to be accessed by the entire class. So that way we can have next definition and next definition, next definition using the driver. So what we can do, we can put it in the class level. For example, we can do something like this, web driver. So it's called instance variable. So web driver, right? And that's it, done. And then here we're saying what driver means, okay? And that's it. So we're saying we're giving the data type in the class, right? This is a class, right? Within the class, And within our definition, things like a method, we are calling that and putting what the Chrome driver means. Then what we will be doing is that I think it's better we keep it outside, but it's fine. But this is something that is going to fire first. This will run first. So it's almost guaranteed that we will have Chrome driver up and running every time we run our tests. So now we can say driver.go or get, right? We have driver.navigate and driver.get. Who knows here the difference between these two? Who knows what the
It's
driver?
void.
So driver.get, what does it do?
It's void. It doesn't return anything.
No, but it gives you something, right? It
Yeah,
does
it gives-
something. What is the action? What is the outcome of using driver.get? The void we're using within this method right here, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying like this line number 11, we're using driver.get. What does it do? What does the get method do in Selenium? This is a Selenium question.
Retrieve something?
We are not just something, right? It
It will
takes
fetch something. It will
it-
fetch a text.
so okay, so driver.get, right? See how it says string with s. Yes, is a void type, but it does something, right? It just doesn't return anything. It's just void mean it doesn't have a return, but it does something for you. It's an action that it does, right? What get does, it takes a string, and the string is anything that is double quotation, right? But it expects an URL. So it will get you to a web page with get. Now there is another called navigate. Navigate is the pretty much will get you the same URL, go to a specific URL. But my question is, what is the get and the difference between get? There is a significant difference between get and get and also the navigate, right? And that's an interview question. So I'm trying to get it out of you guys. Let me know if you know it. So let's say URL is equal to something, right? Google, right? And let me just go ahead and now there is going to be a question here for the Java guys, people that did Java. What am I doing wrong here? Why is it still red? I just created a variable.
We need to declare variable URL.
You do not specify the data type.
Data type, right? And that's what I wanted to hear. We need to provide a data type. Okay, so if this is a string, then that's good. Now, imagine like I go like this, int. What
There's
is
no number there.
what kind of like, okay, so like what kind of, like, first of all, our ID immediately telling you they did something wrong because that is too obvious, right? And somebody just said number, that's obviously right, integer and writing some characters, alphabetic characters is something that we can immediately spot, right? So you should never have confusion what is a string and what is a int variable. So now what if I do this? Is this still a string or this is int?
A string.
Anybody here disagree?
I disagree.
Okay, so you're saying this is a
Integer.
integer, this is a whole number,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
But you know what, like you and I with our eyes, we know this is a number, but the computer sees that as a string. Why? Because anything in double quote is a string. Now, if this number was outside, for example, like this, remember, a integer value do not need quotation. A computer understand math, right? They can do operation. They can understand what number is. So they never need this, right? They never need this quotation. If you really think about it, computer cannot predict what you're about to write. For example, what are you going to write, right? So that's why they said, okay, anything in between quotation is something that we don't know, but we'll call that a string, okay? But any number in the world, any number that in the world that you write, the computer understands. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So that may be a logical reason why we don't need quotation, single quote, double quote, doesn't matter, right? We can still write whole number with even with decimal, it understands, right? So for decimal, we'll use double, long, and there are other data types that we need to use. All right, so in this case, we will create the string again. I know I'm taking forever to explain things. I feel like it's okay because we're pretty much heading toward where we're gonna start thinking about doing final projects. So it's okay, we're taking it easy. And right now hiring is crazy. People are getting calls left and right, and companies doing panic hire. You know what that means, right? It means like they need to hire. Regardless, they need to hire. They have way too many things going on. They're growing, they want things, and people are getting hired left and right. That's for sure. Right now we have 2 new people that are in the market. Aside from that, everybody else from the last batch is working. So yeah, if you know anybody from last batch, call them, verify, you know, talk to somebody from the last batch. They will tell you how this went down, how we were able to help with jobs, right? So we relatively will start asking people like, hey, do you feel like you know enough to put yourself out there in the market? It doesn't mean you're fully ready. At least what you can do is that you can go out there in the market and start looking for jobs. That this will give you experience ahead of time. And then maybe when you get the job, we're going to give you additional training, like, because you will have 2 extra weeks. So if you require more training, you can get training for the whole entire 2 weeks. And you can simply come over and do a face-to-face training for 2 weeks before you join your new company. So that's why we don't mind if we have to like look at someone and say, okay, you're somewhat ready, we're gonna go ahead and put you out there. Right now we don't have a lot of people are in the market. We only have 2 from this batch, and everybody else is working. All right, so if I do this and I'm going to run the test and see what's wrong with it. So notice how this line is no longer the way it is, and I'm going to run it, and we're going to see an issue that I want you guys to tell me the answer for it, because we did this last time and we had you know, we talked about it. So now you see, notice how it says the path to the driver. What do I have to do though? You tell me. So here it says the path to the driver is executable must be set to the driver.com.
We should set property.
Okay, we have to specify where the driver is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So remember, like, this is something that you may face on your first running of the test, even at work, because why you're gonna face this? Because your Chrome driver is not set. Maybe you set up the repository, but your Chrome driver is not set. And that's why you need to be able to identify what is the issue. So we're gonna go ahead and do this right here. Okay, so system dot set property. The first portion is this is a string. So system dot set property takes 2 different parameters, right? This is the first parameter. The second parameter is the path itself, right? So driver path, right, for example, right? So what is driver path? I don't know yet. I'm gonna say driver path is equal to something, this, and this can be a string. It's not a problem. And so let's go ahead and get myself a Chrome driver. I just need to look at my Chrome version. So, you know, I already know what the version is, but it's good to know, because otherwise you can end up spending 5 extra minutes for no reason. So, you know, you got 9.92.0. So now you download Chrome driver. So now we know it's 92.0 and this is 92.0, and go into that. For Windows users, you only have 1 version, so you can just download that. Mac, this is
Excuse me.
Say it again.
I have a question. So since we already downloaded the Chrome driver last time, do we have to do the same time?
No, you don't. You just copy and put it into this repository. You don't have to. I'm doing it for anybody missed the last class.
All right, Joel bhai, if I how can we create the Like how can I copy the path from the download? And if I do that, does it work?
If you copy the path from the download itself, it will still work, but you may need to do relative path, or you may need to put absolute path. But if you put relative path, you'll still have to like you have to play around to make sure that it is working the way you want to. But I like to put it in the repository so there is no confusion what driver you're using. You may have another driver for another repository.
All right, I got it.
So Bhaiya, every separate, every different project we need to download differently, right?
Every what?
Every different project we need to download every time, not a single time.
Well, you see, you can do a single time, right? So let's say it depends on who designed your framework. So if let's say if I'm designing your framework and I have a driver folder here, and I put the driver executable here, you don't even have to download the driver. You will not even see this issue because it's automatic. Everything is done for you. What you are seeing right now is that if you are the person who's building the framework, you are making somebody's life easier. So like, for example, I'm building it and I have a folder here, driver, and I'm going to go ahead and put this driver executable here. And now you're using this framework. You don't need to worry about anything because it comes with it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
when
I
you
got
join
it.
your team and you notice that there is a driver folder and then there is
Yeah.
executable file, you don't have to worry about it. But the recent, test architects, people that design frameworks, we try to create framework that is kind of like hands off. Like you get the framework, 5 minutes later, you're writing code without any issue, versus previously you'd have to do so much setup and maybe it's going to take a day or two. And we try to simplify for the users, for the QA engineers who will be contributing to the framework. So think about this way. If it wasn't there, then you would have to put it like, if it wasn't there and it was on your download, you simply go into your, let me see, get info, if you're Mac, and go ahead and know exact location. So in this case, user / my name / download, right? That's what you will have to put it in here. But in order to make it simplified, we just take this and put it in. It's the same thing. It's just that you have a folder that contains this executable file. And now you take the relative path, the copy path right here. You see you got root, you got file name, and you got the absolute path. So we don't need absolute path. It works with relative, and that's it. Now for Mac, this is fine. For Windows, you may see double slashes on the backward double slashes, and it will automatically, the IntelliJ will automatically change it for you if you paste it the way you get it from your description of the file. Now, if I run this real quick and see what it is that is happening, and then I'm going to push this code. So if you don't build this framework, you're going to still get the code to deal with it. Now there is a command. You see how this is happening? Like there is a command that I recently learned from my company. One of the other test architect, right? We had to use this command to kind of get rid of this kind of Mac security situations. Is because like when you in a work environment, you're not allowed to do anything on your Mac. Like you can't really modify anything, right? So in here, like for example, this is my personal computer, and I can now go into my setting, privacy, and then if I go to general, it will say, look, Chrome driver was blocked, and I can allow it. In your work computer, you cannot. Anything to do with security, this you will not even have access to. So you may end up asking your DevOps team and say, hey, I need this access so that way I can run Chrome. No, you don't need that. There is a command that you can also do it. But for now, just know that there is a command that you can use. If you Google it, you'll probably be able to find it. And I'll try to find it for you guys. But when you click on allow, that's it. Now, if you run the test, it will go ahead and run it. This time it will say open, and you are all good to go. Okay, so it went to Google and that's it. The next thing it says, I search for keyword. And now we're going to write a step definition for keyword. So if I click on this guy, just create a step definition, and I'm going to create my step def in under the same one. And you see, notice how it says string argument, and there is an argument as a string. What I want you to realize what's happening here. Okay, this is going to be a very different step definition that you will see. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to reuse the driver because this is the same instance. Okay, so if the driver is already up and running by this step, we want to continue from where it was left off, which is the same driver instance. We're using the same name within the same class, so we are good to go. This is the same session. Okay, now we're saying driver, please get me something. For example, please find element. Okay, I want you to find it by, and you can say ID, name, whatever you want, right? So let's say we want to find it by name or something, right? So first thing first, we want to find this box, right? So, oh, what am I doing? We do inspect. We go into this and we need to find the name of this text box. Okay, so we got JS name right there, and we go into this. Wow, they changed naming and everything, which is fine. We just have to find the right one for us. So let me just go ahead and do this. Okay, there we go. This used to be Q. Oh, there you go, Q. Okay, so the name is equal to Q. That's what we will use right now. Name, and we're gonna put the parameter as simply Q. Okay, so let's say we have to import something by, we got to import it. Anytime you see red, that means you have to import it. See, we just imported by. So we're going to make that as a variable, so that way we can reuse this, because I feel like this is going to be used a couple of times. So I'm going to go ahead and say web element, and we're going to say search box, right, is equal to this, and that's it. So the next thing is search box dot. If I want to write something on something, what should I do? Which method should I use here?
Send key.
Send keys, right? Okay. So send keys, and we can say now if I want to write something, but look at this step, it doesn't know what we want to write. So for example, we want to write Apple, or we want to write iPhone, for example. We want to write iPhone. So we already wrote it here. So now in these steps right here, where do we write iPhone, right? We don't have to, because it is passing an argument, and we can say keyword. Okay, I'm going to give it a nice name so we can use it. So I'm going to say keyword is the argument, and that's it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this code right there. So it's going to search. But notice, as a human, when I do iPhone, right, and I'm clicking return right from there. Yes, you guys agree? So I have to do the same thing. So from here, I'm gonna do again send keys dot sen send keys, and I'm gonna say keys. Okay, dot. Now I will find my enter or something. Oh, there you go, keys.enter. Okay, and that's it. So now one of the interview question, how do you enter from keyboard? This is how you enter from keyboard itself. Okay, this is going to mimic exactly the keyboard stroke. Now this is pretty much passing a special how do I say this, parameters in this case. Right now, send keys is a very good example of method overloading or overriding. Who wants to say this? So method overloading versus, oh, my computer is frozen. 1 second, you guys. Overriding, right? So remember method overloading or overriding? How many people remember that? So let's review that real quick, okay? When two or more methods in the same class have the same name but different parameter, It's called overloading. When a method, signature, name, and parameter are same in a separate class and it's called overriding, right? So knowing this information just now, okay, what do you think we just did here? We're using the same method, but the parameter seems to be
Overloading.
overloading, right? It's pretty clear, right? So when two or more method in the same class having same name but different parameter, okay, that is called overloading. Okay, so it's good to know that, right? Because you did the Java and everything. Trust me, they may end up asking you these questions. What is a good example from Selenium of overloading? You can send keys, right? You can also say click, because click takes parameter, and sometimes it doesn't take parameter, but that is an action method. All right, so with that said, if we go ahead and run this, we can see where we are, and then the next one would be writing the iPhone, and we click enter. Okay, so now we want to see maybe iPhone is in the whole page, or maybe we want to see the first result contains iPhone. The decision that we make right now is entirely up to us, right? We can even see like if it shows Apple, right? Apple.com. We make the decision what we consider as, as a good answer at this point, right? What we consider as a success. So we can say like, if we see this text, then we know for fact it worked, okay? But because we're using for many keywords, for the many different keywords, it's hard to predict. So we're gonna look for the same keyword within here. As long as that keyword existed here, we should be, right? We should be fine, right? So I'm gonna like first have to target this. I cannot just simply target the whole thing, because iPhone also exists in your text box. The test will never fail. You understand what I'm saying? You guys kind of get it, right? If I say, okay, I want to look for the keyword iPhone in the whole page, then your test will never fail. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
That
Why?
because we already sent.
Because your test is not a test anymore, because it's not really testing anything. Okay, it's
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's, so what happened tomorrow? Let's say you search for iPhone and somehow Google messed up and there is no iPhone showing on the pages or nothing. It doesn't even have a result. It shows some, it's a blank page. It's a blank page, for example, and your test saying success, it passed. Why? Is because you looking into the entire page, at least the iPhone that you wrote is already in the page somewhere, okay? It's because you wrote it here in the top. So that's why you have to exclude this portion if you want to really truly test it, okay? So the way you exclude it, you can get the whole div. Like for example, this div, this is a container. Div is a container, right? And this is another container. So you can say within this container, I want to look for this keyword. You can say that, or you can simply say, you know what, I want the first one, or at least the first div. This is the first div, right? And you have to get the selector for this. So if I copy, let's see, copy selector, and let's see how that selector looks like if I paste it here, and it's crazy looking, right? You can also look for, let's see, I'm trying to grasp something that will be more, okay, so I just want to see if this class right here is unique. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this and test it. So it is not unique, first of all. So how can I make it unique? I can make it unique. It's not a problem as long as I know the div. So this div is entirely for this. So we don't, this is the one, okay. And then we can see RCN, this is the ID. So maybe I can take the ID and it will be unique. So I'm gonna say RC something. Okay, I gotta find this again. Okay, so RSnet. And this is also multiple times. So so unfortunately you can't use that. So we're gonna have to go to the next things that we want to do. We can also say if the result step is more than one, that means it did show results, right? We can even say that. We can take this number and calculate, okay? We can even have a relative expected number for this result, right? That will be another expectation that we can create, but I think it's better we just simply check the keyword, right? So if we do this name, okay, so that is an ID. And we can actually grab this number. So let's grab this number. It's probably a good way to see how things are going to be. So we're going to create this new definition, create a step def. And the first thing we're going to say is that web element is equal to search count result, right? So numbers of result. So for example, number of results, and this is going to be a integer value later, so we're going to grab it by saying driver dot find element by dot id. It should be by id, right? So we can do id at this point, and within this we put the id. We don't need this, and it's done. And we're going to say numbers of result dot. So now we can put this and we can grab the text.
By maybe capital letter.
Where is the capital letter? Oh yeah, that's true. All right. So now we need to take this value and put it somewhere, right? So if I grab this result, and this is a text, okay, this is a text. Now this immediately cannot be a integer because we're grabbing alphabetic numbers also. But when we do, think about this way, dot guys,
তুমি নামাজ পড়ে রেডি করে লিস্ট করো, আমি কাজ করতেছি, ক্লাস হচ্ছে না, কি করতেছি?
Okay, so just for the future, you guys mute yourself so it's, you know, not distracting for any other people. But what we need to do here is that we grabbing the information from this element, right, which is going to be number of result, but this is coming back as what? String, because when we do get text, is actually get text is what? Return is a string type, regardless if it's a number or alphanumeric number, whatever it is. It is going to be a string. So this is returning a string. So we're going to say search result is equal to this, but then we will say string. Now we have to somehow convert this into like number, right? So that way we can calculate that is more than, the answer is more than this many, right? So in order to calculate that, we have to convert that into integer. So how do we do this? How do we convert that into integer? There's two things you have to look into. Number one is that you got the value. It's grabbing the whole value. So it contains about and results. Okay. So we need only the numeric values, and then we take the numeric value and then convert it into integer. Can you convert this into integer by itself? What do you think? Without taking the alphanumeric values out, without taking out the alphabetic values out? Who wants to answer that?
I would say no, because this is not the exact value, this is the approximate value. So next time when you search, it would not be the same. It might not be the same. So on that time, the test will be failed.
No, but that's not the point, right? When you want to convert a value from let's say alphanumeric to just integer, which is numeric, your Java is going to give you a lot of problems saying, okay, wait a minute, you want to convert this, but it doesn't know how to convert the result into number. Result is what? Is alphabetic, right? So the first step to convert this into integer, what is the first step we have to do?
We have to convert the numeric value to the alphabetic value.
Wait, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand the answer. But what I'm saying is, okay, this is your string. This is the whole string that is returned. Okay. I want to convert this into integer. So I can compare, I can do some mathematical operation and say this value is more than this, right? My question to you is, what is the first step that I will have to do in order to convert this into to numeric value or integer?
Taking out the quotation marks.
But how are you going to take out the quotation? I'm talking about program wise, right?
Yes.
Because
You
First
only
to
copy
split-
the number.
Hmm?
You
The
copy
first-
the number and you put a single quotation.
no, but like, I don't want to do that myself. I want to do it with program because this number can change tomorrow. It doesn't have to be this number. If I copy and paste it, then I'm not doing a true test, right? What I want to do is with the program is that I want to grab it first. Once I grabbed it, I know this result is a string. And now if I can convert that into integer, I can now say, okay, this number is greater than this, then my test passes. You know what I'm saying? So now in order to do the math with this number, the first thing I'll tell you, because this is a this should stay with you, right? Because this is more like programming questions. You simply cannot, like, Java is going to be very upset if you try to convert the whole thing into number, because this is not a number. Yes, this is a number. Like, it can only convert numeric value into integer, right? Even though it's a string. Let me just copy this so that way we have a visual representation at this point. So this value right here simply cannot be converted into number without removing these alphabetic values. Okay. So we have to trim it. We have to kind of refine this and take out only the numbers and put it into a separate variable. Okay. Once that is done, then we can use a Java method called int at, I believe, and we will have to use that method to convert that into int. Now, first of all, you will have to use a regular expression to remove this guy, and you just keep this. So let's give you guys what the regular programmer will do. Let's say I don't know Java. The first thing I'll say, Java remove or get only number from string. So I'm not the first one who typing this here, because you can see it was the first search result. Now extracting digits from a single Java string, it's how to do it, right? For example, you're removing this, even special characters or spaces can be removed, or it will be removed. So this is one way to do it. Replace all with this. This is called regular expression right here. This has a meaning D, and this double slashes has some special meaning that you need to understand, which is, so just know for now we're having regular expression. We are taking anything other than digits, other than numbers, and replacing with nothing. Okay, so we're using regular expression. This is your this is basically resembles non-numeric digits. Okay, and we are replacing that replace all with nothing. Okay, so you see, not even a single space. So that's what we will use initially, okay, to remove everything else, including space and everything. So just for the sake of argument here, I'm going to go ahead and print this out so you guys understand. System.out.print println, and I want to print this. Okay, so I'm gonna, before I print it, I'm gonna write some okay, before, like, removing non-digit value, right? This is before removing non-digit value. Okay, so this is what you're gonna see. Okay, and we're gonna do after. Okay, so after is gonna be this. After removing non-digit value, the way we're gonna do after is that dot. We're gonna go ahead and copy that, right? So not this, not this. Oh, where did it go? Okay, there we go, right here. So you guys understand the explanation here, right? We're replacing something with nothing in this case, right? So what we will do, we'll paste it in here and replace non-digit value with nothing. Okay. So this is after replacement. I'm going to give it because this is still a string, by the way. Okay. So num only, okay, is this. So numbers only. And go ahead and run this and see the difference. This will give you a little bit of idea what we just did. Okay, so this is not going to quit because it's going to take time. Okay, before removing non-digit value is the whole thing. Okay, and after is this, because this is keep happening. Let's meet. Like, trust me, if you want to talk, I'm all for it. You just have to be. It should be intentional. So if you need to talk, not a problem, but immediately mute it because there is a lot of people here, right? Okay, so that's one, right? We finally were able to just take the number. Notice it even removed the comma. Okay, it removed the spaces and commas and everything, including these alphabetic values. Now, is this still an integer? It's not, right? So now with Java, if I didn't know Java, so I can say Java convert. So Google can really help you with a lot of things. Convert, look, I don't even have to complete my sentences. It's kind of read my mind. Google, Java convert string into int. And then what we can do is like maybe click in here and see suggestions. Here is like somebody says parse int, and this is the one that I was talking about, parse int. So we take that. So now we're gonna do int. Okay, so this is parse int, integer is this, and parse int is gonna be this number only values, and we're gonna say int search result number. That's it, right? So this is your search result number. We take this and now we can compare. Now remember, we can now say we can basically say assertion, right? How many people know what assert is?
So assert is to verification point or to verify.
Right, so assert with JUnit right here, right? So we get in JUnit and then say assert equals. In this case, we don't want to do equal because we know that number, Google search number can change 1 or 2 numbers here and there. So we're going to give some room. We're going to give some room in here. So that way it doesn't immediately fail. It does look at the number and kind of make a decision based on that. So we're going to say expected string. So this, in this case, it should be expected int because that's what we're going to be doing. And then dot, and then assert equal. We got to look for integer. I think it'll work regardless, but the right here, int expected and int actual. So now, oh, this is an array. Okay, my bad. We got to remove assert equal. That's it. That should still work. So the first one was expected, right? So your expected result is this, okay? And we now need to put an actual number. So if we look at our number, this was the biggest number we can ever find. So what you can say, assert true, actually. It's gonna be a Boolean situation now. Assert false, assert true. Where is it? Assert true, Boolean, right? Okay. So what we can say is assert true. Our expected should be always should be more than the number that we. So let's say we are expecting at least at a bare minimum 50,000 results. Okay. So we're saying that the value that we got, it should be more than at least 50,000. If it's less than 50,000, we know there's something wrong with our Google. It didn't give us what we need. Everybody is agreeing, or somebody says, okay, no, this is not what we want to verify. Okay. So far, so good.
No, what if we can just put 100?
Yeah, it will still be fine. Now, this is my question. If this number more than 100, that's my question to you.
Yeah, that is true.
That is true. That means this line will pass or fail.
It passed.
Okay. Now, but that is this a smart decision? Because as a QA engineer, will you make a smart decision? you need to be at least as close as possible to expected number, right? Because if you say 100, it may never fail, but is 100 the number you're looking for? You're Google, right? You should have a lot of results for iPhones. So even if 50,000 is less than what we're seeing here, we can say like 5 million, 6 million at a bare minimum. We can put like 50,000 in difference. So we can even say this whole number, it has to be close to this number, but instead of 3, we can say 1. At least we're giving 2, I think like roughly 2 million as the wiggle room here, like to say, okay, you know what, at least 2 million will be like a number that we can kind of you know, integer is too long. So Java is not happy with it. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, so in order to have long integer, we'll have to, but at least we're going for almost 40, what is it, 40 million, but look how big the number is. So get as close as possible to this number. But I think this may raise an exception because this number is so big, it may not compare. So we may end up doing not int. What is the instead of int, which one should we use in this case, right? We got Java data types.
You need the long.
So there is different kind of data types. Let's learn it very quickly. We got char, boolean, float, int. Okay, then we got these are primitive, I believe. Okay, and then these are this is primitive data types. Okay, so we got double and long, right? So let's see. Long is 8 bytes, so it can go beyond the number that we're looking for. Okay, so if I do long, now something is in here that's going to be a problem, right?
No, the long is start from really small number and it goes all the way to the like really big number.
Got it. But what I'm saying is that you are saying that data type is long, but your parse int will give you integer value. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got it.
So we need to parse it in long. So if I want to, I think it's parse long. I never used long. Let me see. Hold on a second. The method, it's going to be similar method. It's just that we just need to know the name. Integer to, okay. Java string to long. Let's see real quick. Parse long. Oh, it's the same thing. It's just wanted to make sure. Right, and it's upset. 1 second, reference. I think, what didn't it say? Oh, use long at, okay, yeah. Okay, that's what I'm doing wrong. That's it, first long, okay. So now, if we raise up this number right here, we have to put like an expected, right? So we have to say long expected result number. For example, I'm just being consistent. Number is equal to this number. And then expected, why is it still complaining? This is a long, it's not integer. I mean, what is going on here? Okay. Oh, I think we have to express it with something. I forgot, like I think something, okay, long, okay, verify, okay, in a second. Define long variable Java. So long I is this, right? And it's not a problem, right? So somebody's gonna, okay, there we go, L, which I knew I was missing something. Okay. All right, so this is gonna be as close as possible. So we can actually go as close as possible to the number. And instead of like, we can put like maybe this last 100 into in a wiggle room. So we can say, okay, as long as this number is fine. So 1, 2, 3, we replaced with this number, then we should be still fine. So if we run the test, it will pass right now. All right, let's see. It has passed, right? And we got this going on. By the way, the new Cucumber has a very good feature, which is like if you want a report to be published somewhere, you can just do Cucumber publish enable true. Let me just do that real quick. And then we can see the report somewhere going on. I will say edit configuration, and we go into the feature environment variable. I think is this, right? And then I will just also put it in here, apply. Didn't I just put this in here? Yeah, apply, okay. And if I run this, now it should publish it in some website for us once it's finished. Let's see if it does. It didn't, because we need to provide this true into a runner file. So we'll show you guys. As you can see, source tag Cucumber properties, we have to add this. If we add it as, yeah, we have to add it to the Cucumber properties. So it's not going to work as the way that I showed you. Oh, right here, environment variable is this. Okay, this will work. Okay, so we have to change the environment variable. We go into edit configuration, and then this is our environment. Notice this, and then we'll also add it to this, and we'll apply for both. Then okay. And for this test, we just need to do one last thing, and we should be good to go. All right, so when it's done, it should give us a link right there. So we go into the link, it publishes your report, okay? Right there, see, it ran, and you can click on this and you can see what kind of test you wrote, okay? So it's really cool. It's a report, completely separate report server, very, very nice. I think a lot of companies are gonna start using it. This is a very new feature. Okay, so that was one expectation that we tested. And the next one, we want to also still want to see the string. So we can say driver dot. Okay, so now we need to verify that a string exists within here. The iPhone should be existed within here. And so I will still have to do that verifications. So I'm going to copy this real quick, copy the selector path. I just want to see how it looks. It's rsent, and then as you can see, it's not going to work out. It is for multiple situation. So this is another one. This is another one. Okay. This is also search. I need to go into one that will have this excluded, right? We don't want the headers to create some expectation. Okay, so why don't we do this? Go into the result right here, and then we're going to find the parent. So this is one, and this is the whole div, right? So if this guy has, if this CDSQAA has the word iPhone, then we are gonna call it a pass, right? So first of all, what I want to do is that I want to convert that into, so let's see, copy selector, and this is our, okay. So I'm simply copying. I don't want to give you guys a hard time. So this is the one, right? If I go ahead and refresh and I see this is still available, that means this is a reliable selector, okay? So what I'm going to do is driver.find element by, and remember we got the CSS selector by CSS selector. Somehow it reads my mind. I don't even, okay. So then we will leave it like this. We're gonna say web element. And this is actually the first search result, right? The first one, like right here. This is the one that this area we are kind of grabbing it from. So first results equal to this. Now we're gonna do is that first result. So we're gonna say first result dot get text, right? So we're gonna get text out of the first results. We're gonna say dot contains, I believe contains, there you go, contains. If it contains the word iPhone, which is gonna be string in our case, keyword. If it does contain the word iPhone, then we are golden, right? So we should be fine. Now, tell me something. Contains is return type of contain is what? Let me see. The return time of contains, contains is a what? Right here. Is it a Boolean? Is everybody still there?
Yes, it should be.
Okay, so it is a Boolean, right?
Yeah.
So this is a Boolean. Then we already have a Boolean before that assert true, right? What simply we can do, if this is true, that means it contains is good, right? So we can just simply put it under our assertion right there, and we are done with our keyword verify, and that is the result verify, and that's the keyword verify. So-
All right, Julbhai, I have a quick question. Instead of keyword, can you use iPhone directly or no?
Yeah, that's the keyword, no? It's the iPhone is going to be the keyword, right? You see, the keyword is a variable that is a temporary variable, right? Keyword is just a variable. It is not the value. What the value will be at this point is going to be the word iPhone. Now I have an iPhone as a keyword here, and that iPhone has name, which is name. Okay, what is a variable in the first place? Do you know what is a variable?
Variable is a container.
Container, right? So now
Yeah.
the iPhone, what's going to happen is the iPhone value is going to be inside of keyword container, right? So as long as you call the word keyword, it will give you return iPhone, right? So in this case, we're saying contains keyword, therefore we're saying contains iPhone. You get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, good. So that's how we parameterize our step definition, and this becomes highly reusable. So now the way I made it more complex, but can we use this for our feature test? Yes, we can. So
Yeah.
one we can do, we can copy this whole step and we put it in here. Now what I effectively did here is that I am now able to run all of my tests with these keywords. Now this keyword needs to be within this. So in order to use it, right? In order to parameterize it. So in order to parameterize it, I did this. Now the first run is going to be iPhone. The second run will be Mac. The third run will be Windows. But let's run this real quick and see if it passes, and then we go from there. Okay, and it probably did pass, or it fails assertion, something. Okay, so when it fail happens, we don't go in a panic mode. We say, okay, that's good. We need to now look at it. We need to investigate and to make sure this is a proper failure. So this is assertion failure. It says before removing non-digit values. This, okay, this is nothing. This is just us writing some stuff. What is the actual situation here going on? Okay, so Google search. Okay, I'm just trying to see that what caused the failure. I'm going to go into the report real quick and see really what the failure is about, right? It says assert value long, blah, blah. Okay, it doesn't give me a whole bunch of information for me to like grasp and understand. So I believe like the number has changed. Maybe this number, let me just go ahead and do this real quick. Maybe this number is too big for it to like kind of like deal with. So I'm going to remove just 1 0 and then try again. And just to, because this number is big enough, but it shouldn't be bigger than the number that we're actually getting. We just want to know that it gives us enough results to say it is passing. Okay, but sometimes also it could be failing because of the timing. So we'll have to fix the timing if we see a timing issue.
Julbhai, can you go back?
Okay.
And here we have a keyword like only specific for the iPhones.
Mhm.
So should we have to say simply as our keyword instead of iPhone
Where?
in the
So this keyword is a placeholder, right? This is
yes
temporarily.
on the first cucumber class
Mhm. Right
feature
here.
feature class.
So if I go to the feature,
This right here.
right? So notice like this is iPhone is a value, right? And when I go into the method, it takes a string and puts it under keyword, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, the value iPhone is passed down to this.
Right. So
Okay.
in the cucumber class
let me
feature,
tell you- Mhm.
we have only specific for the iPhones, not a keywords. In
No,
the
no, no. Okay. So, okay. So this, let me just go ahead and fix this first. Okay. So first of all, okay, let's look at where it failed. Okay. Looks like it is failing at this point. I should see the result keyword iPhone, right? Now, remember, in here, I is capital. So it may be because we are not seeing I with capital I because we're taking the first one. Okay. We're just taking this first one. So I need to see where is the I capital. If the I is not capital, then we will see a failure. Remember, this is how we're typing it. Okay. So now remember that I know what you're confused with, right? So this iPhone, this is the value that is being passed on to keyword. Keyword now holds the value of iPhone. Therefore, the computer do not read keyword, they read the value. The reason why we give it a name is because computer understands what the name has behind. So in this case, the name has iPhone, I is capital, therefore none of this iPhone in this page have I capital. But we're only grasping the first, okay, the first one. So now if we change that to lowercase I and uppercase phone, we may see that has passed. So 1 second, let's try. All right, let's see. We are looking at a success test, right? So what happened is, let's see the report. So maybe it's more visual for you. All of the steps currently passed because of this thing. So just be careful what
Bhaiya,
you.
do you need to change both iPhone for I?
So if you logically think about
Why?
it,
Yeah.
if you change it, it makes no difference, right? Because remember,
Okay.
you're searching it here. Google knows what you're asking for. So capital or not capital, it will still give you the right way that we are spelling iPhone. So if we do I is capital lowercase, it will still, Google knows, right? I mean, they have their algorithms on. So that's why when we initially type in, we don't have to worry about it. But when we are looking for the result, we have to worry about how it is going to show. Okay. So this may be a good test.
Can we put the keyword instead of specifically iPhone so we can iterate to the next one?
Right. And that's what we're about to do. So look at this, right? So we got the first one, iPhone, Mac. Which keyword do you like? Tell me. Give me any keyword that you like. You want Samsung?
Samsung?
Yeah, okay. So I need to make sure that I'm spelling correctly. Otherwise, we're going to have failure because it's using the same keyword for both. Let me just go ahead and type it in here too for good measure. So Samsung, if I do Samsung and the search result, S is capital, okay? So I need to provide this exact spelling in order to make it work. So if I do Samsung right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and fix my test. And before we go into that, we got two scenarios. I'm gonna remove these extra scenarios. Well, for today, these two scenarios fine. You tell me which one is common, which one we can put it in background from both. Anything that I can put it into typical, I mean, if you really think about it, we can put all of this in the background, right? But we can, for now, we can put this. This is going to Google, right? Is being repeated on both. So we don't really need that. And now given is this, and then when this, then this, when this, and then this, right? So now if I run it, it will still be fine, okay? So let's see, it's gonna have, and notice like how many browsers open here is because we don't have a tear down. We don't have a closing of the browser, right? So we got to close it. We need to do driver.quit or driver.close at the end. So all right, I should see at least some failures, but the result is such a big, like, you know, for all of these, it's like I'm not surprised to see if it's not failing. But okay, so let's go ahead and look at this real quick. And what does it say? There are some failures, right? So okay, Samsung has a failure, right? And the keyword for Samsung has failed. Okay, 2 tests failed. Samsung failed, and then what else it failed at this point? And Mac failed. Okay, so we just need to know, like, okay, Mac, if I do MSE and M is capital, in this case, MAC, this is where we're looking at in the first place, right? So if I have to do it like this, MAC, before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and say, then, okay, so, and I close my browser, okay? And this way we can not have to deal with all this garbage that is piling up. So I will say something like this, driver dot close at the end of my run. Okay, so at least we are kind of fine. Okay, so what if I don't want to run everything? I just want to see if Mac is fine, right? I'm gonna go ahead and comment these 3 out for now. And I'm gonna run it, and once Mac is fine, then I'm gonna do the same thing individually, run Samsung, and both of them are good, then we are gonna be fine. Okay, still fail because why? Let's see, one failure. Want to see why Mac keyword, and I should see Mac keyword. Okay, so okay, so where are we looking? Where are we looking? I'm gonna go back and see actually where we are looking on the first place, because if I look at this selector.
Yeah, I think this Mac for the cosmetics. You choose the cosmetics Mac.
Oh, I know. So MacBook probably is better, right? So we should do that way instead. Okay. So MacBook, this is the spelling, exact spelling that they have. So we'll keep it this way, so we don't see the failure. And go back to our test, and instead doing this. Let's see. And we have failure. Okay, so not surprised, because because this is happening. Let's see, it doesn't give me a lot of information. That's the problem, right? I should see this. Okay, MacBook.
Can we see the report which you generated?
The report probably didn't generate because of the failure. Let me see. It has to finish at least 1 test to get the report up in there, I think. Or something is happening here. Let me see real quick. For MacBook, why is it failing? That's my question, because okay, so the easiest thing you can do, copy your selector and see which area that you're looking into for.
I think the error happens in the assertion.
Right, right.
First line.
You're asserting, hold on a second. You see this guy doesn't even exist. You see this selector doesn't even exist for MacBook, right? So for Mac. So the selector is no good for, so pretty much anything that we do, we're going to see some fail and some passing because the selector works for some and some doesn't. So what we will do, we'll have to replace the selector with something better. So so MacBook right here, and then I can probably understand why this is happening is because the selector changed after some time. Google is being, if they're being pretty paranoid about security and things like that, people using their software with automation and things like that. So they will enforce it in a way that people can't really do a lot of things. So for example, search, right? Search is a div that contains everything except for the ads, right? So we should use search because that is a better selector. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And it has many. Okay, so if that's the case, then I can combine. I can actually combine that. 1 second. So the biggest part of automation is being able to get the right selector. Okay, so as you can see that I'm kind of here trying to pick out what I need. Let's see, go back to search again. Okay, there you go, search. Okay, so if I do div, search div, okay, that is one. Okay, and I believe this is selecting everything, so it's still no good. We don't want the whole thing. We want to exclude. 1 second. So if I do this, notice like it's also grabbing. No, but it's not grabbing the. You see, it's in the behind, so it shouldn't be. It should be fine. You see, this is after the other one, so we should be fine with divs of search. Okay. What we don't want is that it's selecting the whole thing where even there is a failure. We'll test to make sure that it is our test is doing the right thing. So we'll test our own test to make sure it is doing the right thing. So for now, we'll just run it like this and see.
Hello?
Yep, listening.
Oh, I thought you froze. Sorry.
No. I was texting in the meantime, but okay, let's see. We got ourselves another failure. It's not very specific, like why is a failure, right? So that's pretty okay. I should see surgical keyword for Mac. So it could be the number also, because it may not have enough as big of a number as the other one. But it's not really saying it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some assertions, like, sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and put some debugging things. So let's see, println. So I'm gonna just print out some stuff. System.out.println. Okay, and I'm just gonna say simply here the result number verify passed, right? So at least I know that this is done. And if this is where is the result number, result keyword verify passed. Okay, so that's that. All right, now if let's say the failure happens before this printed, that means it failed on 42 and it never even go to 43. Okay, so that's one way to debug. The other way to debug is just simply click on debug and pause it at that point, but for now we'll just go with this one. That brings up a good question. What is it? What is debugging? Who can answer this question? What is debug?
Debugging is basically to specify where exactly the test is getting failed.
No.
Why 17 is red?
Huh?
Line number 17 is red. Scenario outline.
No. This is just telling you what options you have.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I know why it failed now, right? Because remember, this number is way too big and this was 4. Apple, right? That's we grab that number from Apple. Okay, so this is not going to work for other keywords, so we have to have a manageable number. As you can see, this number definitely is less than the one that we have, which is this. So which is great. Now we know where the failure is, right? Because it didn't even go to the number 43. Okay, unfortunately, this should have give us a better picture. Like the assertion, it should have been give us like, instead of saying assert fail, okay, this is where it's giving us assert error long blah blah, which is good. So we should have read this first. No, never mind. It still doesn't give us enough information to kind of assess the situation, but now we know, because 43 didn't even run. It didn't even go through. So if we, just to be as good as we can be, moderate, we remove 3 zeros. So if we see this value for most of our search result, we are okay. All right, so now we should be fine. Because remember, iPhone has way more search result than the MacBooks for some reason. The first one was iPhone we did, right? So that's where the problem could be. And as you can see, it is passing. So now it should pass for all of it. You may think like, wait a minute, but then we're not checking exact number. We can do exact number by doing case statement. We can say if it's iPhone, then we want to do this. But if we are for this case, we don't want to specify too much, because then let's say you have 1 million keyword you want to search for. And so you have to specify the result to be that 1 million, right? Like it's just going to be insane amount of work. Instead, you're saying, okay, as long as any of the search result has more than 50,000 search count, I think I am fine, right? So that's some information, or at least that's agreement that you can do it with your team and say, look, this is what I'm specifying. If this is how we are seeing it, 50,000 and more, then I'm going to call it a pass. And they said, okay, that's totally fine. And that's what we're doing right now. We're doing more than 50,000, right? It's like, I think close to 1 million, right, for all. So we should still be fine. And let's see. All right, so mostly passing at this point. Mostly passing. Okay, cool. That's great. Okay. The last one, Samsung, and boom, passed. All right. So we do have all of our tests passed, right? And we did create some debugging. Like these are comments you can remove. Like, so typically when you write these comments, you can just then go into this comment and just say, okay, just leave it like this, and leave it like this for the future, right? Or you can remove it because your test now you've just finished and you're done. Now, how do you test your own test, right? So if these are same tests anyway, right? So here, to test your own test, we're going to find a keyword that may not exist in Google. Okay, so I'm going to write my own keyword. Boom, boom, boom. This is my keyword. Okay. And I'm going to now run my test, and it should fail because this keyword should not bring up as many as a search result as everything else, right? So it may have search result of 0, if anything. There we go. And now it will fail, right? So the way that we test our own test is to kind of keep in mind that, okay, if there is an unexpected event, will it catch that event, right? That's what we are doing. It's like you're catching a fish. What kind of fish you're targeting at this point, right? So you cannot just simply say, okay, no, everything, then you will get false positive and all that, and your test is going to be unusable. With that said, guys, this was a very simple small demo of Cucumber framework using step definition features, learning about Gherkin. This is Gherkin syntax, right? Given, when, and then. Given is for background, when is the action of a user, and then is the outcome to that action. Now these keywords do not really change anything on your test, right? In this keyword, if you mess it up, if you put when instead of then, and if you put then instead of when, it doesn't do anything at all. Your code still stays the same. The keyword is for you to use to make it as readable as it can be. So when a human being reads it, they understand when means this. So there is a convention. It is not a hard requirement. So if you miss the keyword, if you messed up the keyword, it will still run your test as is without having any sort of issues. So your test will not fail because you missed the keyword. You can even simply do this and your test is still going to run. This is another keyword, like this is another thing. You can do it this and it will run. You can do then and it will run. You can do given here. It's still fine. It's still going to go ahead and run, and you will not see failure because of these keywords. But who will complain about this is your coworkers. They're going to say, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense. Why are you not using then? Why are you not using when? So it's really important for you to understand when we use given, when we use when, and when we use then. And this is if you are to work in a company and they create acceptance criteria, this is your acceptance criteria. Also, before writing the test, this is how it works. Let me go ahead and show you. Imagine this is your requirement. This is how the business analyst is going to write their acceptance criteria. You take that, you paste it right here, and then you make them work by adding step definition, like today that I did, right? So step definition will make the test usable, and therefore your test is functional. But your business analyst will write the requirement in this manner, in Gherkin, they say, right? The acceptance criteria. But when they write that, they will write it in a way, but you need to identify which method already exists, which step already exists, so you don't have to rewrite that again and again and again. So when you paste it here, you have to identify which one can be substituted for one of the steps that your business analyst is writing. So that way we are reusing steps. We have parameterized steps that are also highly reusable, and therefore maintainability do not suffer. And because it's in plain English, when you join a company, 90% of the time, you're going to be able to write tests without writing code, because you're just going to go and look at the other tests and say, wait, what do I need to close a browser? Boom, this is the one, copy and paste. What do I need to type into a box? Boom, boom, this is the one, right? And you just keep copying until you build your test. You just need to know what test you're building, and you should be fine. On my first job, I used to write 15 to 20 tests, a script, automated tests, without having to understand anything about the code. I would go into the code and I would just stare at it and look at it and just read over and over again, because my understanding was that as long as I look at it and kind of focus on it, I will still be able to learn it. I mean, somewhat maybe worked. I don't know if it worked, but what worked is the boot camp, right? I would use my Sundays. Back then I would teach on Saturdays, and I would teach a different automation tool, which is ViviScript, using QDP and all that. And on my Sunday, I would take the day, 8 hours, get a coffee and sit down. The only thing I would do is just write some code and understand and get myself going, right? And so every Sunday I did that until like I feel like I have enough to kind of like, slow down. And that got me going, because coding, nobody can pour this knowledge into you. You can only do it to yourself. And it only takes maybe 1 or 2 Sundays or 3 Sundays where you provide significant amount of time and focus, put so much effort and focus on that day. After that day, you will at least have enough to understand and be able to move around and be able to write more things. So yeah, put yourself inside of a room, close that door, and then spend 8 to 9 hours just simply either follow a Udemy course and follow with it and write code. And I can guarantee you, your eyes will open. It's like going into a new country and don't know how to have a conversation because you don't know how to speak. But the moment you do, is the doors opens up, right? A lot of doors opens up, and this is what's going to happen to you. So I would say, if you do have time, do it. Otherwise, at least practice, because coding, I cannot teach you, I can only show you. The way you teach yourself is by practicing, right? Nobody can guarantee you that they will show you the code and then you'll learn. Nobody learns like that. Trust me. You can practice, only then you will learn. Otherwise, there's something called string, but you don't know what that is for. There's something called parse int, but you don't know what that is for unless you actually use it. And the best possible way you can actually learn how to code is by making mistakes. So when you are trying to write something and you're failing. And in the process of failing, you correct yourself and you learn that, and you never forget that thing, right? And you just going to pile up that information over and over until one day comes and you're going to be really good at writing some code. With that said, I will end the class today, and I will see you guys next time. And hopefully this was helpful. This video will be provided later on. For now, try to recreate this framework and write some tests. And then the next class, I'm going to be going a bit more deeper and going into page object and page object model, and also the using some of the OOP concept in order to write our tests. And that'll be the last thing about this framework. And then we're going to just continue to write automated tests until you feel comfortable. And then when you do the final project, it'll be it for automation side. And I believe you guys are already ahead on the manual side. So hoping to see some people are kind of ready by next couple of weeks. So that way we can start putting some people in the market. All right, with that said, you guys, if you guys don't have any question, we'll end it today, and I will see you guys next time.
I have a question.